Hello everyone, welcome back to Reading English Comprehension class, and today we are already on the 12th meeting and we'll continue our lessons about John's Taiwanese Wedding. John's Taiwanese Wedding by John Felty and Bill McDowell from Hemispheres magazine. In the spring, Huiling's mother pulled me aside and asked, "What exactly are your plans with my daughter?" As I had already discussed marriage with Huiling, my 24-year-old Taiwanese fiancé, Mrs. Chan's tone didn't fluster me. She was just worried that if I, a 29-year-old American graduate student, didn't have serious marital intentions, her family would suffer a great loss of face. One point that infuriated her was my inability to find a Mayron. I asked some friends about a Mayron and learned that it's a title given to the groom's relative who goes to the prospective bride's house to carry out all the touchy negotiations that go into planning a traditional Chinese wedding. Having a Mayron is a little old-fashioned, but it can be useful as a third party that helps save face during the arguments that inevitably arise over issues like the dowry amount and how many marriage cakes to buy, which are sent to the relatives and friends to announce the engagement. One could easily spend $6,000 on these cakes alone. Determined to make the Chans proud to have a foreign son-in-law, I searched for a Mayron. I work as an Asian representative of a British company, so I asked my boss, Mr. Lin, to suggest a Mayron. He recommended that I ask Mr. Wu, who works at my company. He was delighted to assist, assuring me he would need only a small red envelope. Huiling later explained that red envelopes are used for cash gifts at ceremonies and on holidays, and a Mayron generally gets $500 until $1,000. The next day, Mr. Lin burst out of a meeting, grinning broadly, patting one of our customers on the back. "Mr. O has agreed to be your Mayron. He will do much better than Mr. Wu, who is too soft and easygoing. Mr. O will give you big face and ensure your girlfriend's parents give you lots of things." With growing interest, I asked, "What kinds of things?" "Their house, car, their money, that kind of stuff." Mr. O explained confidently. "Don't I need to give them money?" I asked. "You only give them money if you don't know what you are doing," confided Mr. O. Later, I asked my boss about using Mr. Wu as a Mayron after all, as he seemed a little more conventional. "Oh, Mr. Wu will be there too," he said offhandedly. I was confused. "Why both?" "You can't just come with one person," he explained. When asked how many people I needed, Mr. Lin replied casually, "6, but 12 is better." Huiling assured me that 6 and 12 are lucky numbers, and in a traditional and formal engagement I would need either number of people. This sure seemed extravagant, but I was determined to do things the Taiwanese way. It took a week to build my team of Mayron. My boss, Mr. Lin, reluctantly agreed, and Mr. O recruited his business partner, and there was Mr. Chan from our sales department with Messrs. R. O. and Wu. I had 5 Mayron. So I cajoled Mr. O to sign on one of his old customers. I barely knew him, but he looked distinguished. I had my Mayron team at last. I proudly stopped by Huiling's parents' house to make the date. 6 people will be coming by with me next Monday to visit you. Can you be here? They seemed pleased with the news and told me they would be ready the next day. I called Huiling to make sure she would have the best tea and fruit for the guests. I heard her mother ask in the background, "Why does he want to bring all those friends anyway?" "They're not friends, they're Mayron," I told Huiling. "Why in the world are you bringing 6 Mayron?" she exclaimed. I swallowed hard. "To negotiate, to talk to your folks. I don't know it is your custom." I heard Mrs. Chen again shouting in the background, "What Mayron? 6 Mayron? Who ever heard of that? What am I supposed to say to all of them? 6? That's crazy." I was losing my cool. You said 6. Everybody said 6. I booked 6. Huiling replied evenly. Listen, you need 6 people but only 1 Mayrin. Now count. I'm 1 person, mom and dad make 3, 1 Mayrin and a friend, and you make 6. But don't worry, my parents decided not to bother about Mayrin. Our Mayrin scenario illustrates how easily communication in a cross-cultural relationship can become muddled. Due to my imperfect Mandarin and my inexperience with Taiwanese customs, I confused the need for 6 people with the need for 6 Mayrin. The highlight of the wedding was the 12-course Chinese feast at a local restaurant. As is the custom, Huiling and I, with parents in tow, stopped at each of the 23 tables and toasted to my new relatives. My parents couldn't understand the words but shared in the outpouring of good wishes for a bright future. Next. As you can see in this part, we are going to do some exercises. In this part, we are going to learn about adjectives and adverbs. Adverbs are usually adjectives that is followed by "ly" at the end of the word. What are the missing adjectives and adverbs in the box below? Write your ideas, then look for the words in the story on pages 134 and 136 and check your spelling. Adjectives and adverbs. The exercises in number 1 is confident, that become confidently. Number 2 is casual, that become blah blah blah. Number 3, blah blah blah, become easily. Number 4, inevitable, become blah blah blah. Number 5, offhanded, become blah blah blah. Number 6, blah blah blah, become proudly. Number 7, reluctant, become blah blah blah. Number 8, blah blah blah, become softly. Now I will give you 10 minutes to finish these exercises. Starting now, and please set your alarm clock for about 10 minutes. Here are the answers for the exercises, adjectives, and adverbs. Number 1, the adjectives is confident, becoming an adverb confidently. And number 2, the adjectives is casual, becoming the adverb casually. Number 3, the adjectives is easy, becoming the adverb easily. Number 4, the adjectives is inevitable, becoming an adverb inevitably. Number 5, offhanded, becoming offhandedly. Number 6, proud, becoming proudly. Number 7, reluctant becomes reluctantly. Number 8, soft becomes softly. Next. In these exercises, you will fill in the words from the box below. From the words adjectives or adverbs that you can fill in on the blanks, one answer may be possible. Number 1. It is probably blah 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 that you will have communication problems when you are speaking with a foreigner. Number 2. It's not appropriate to dress blah 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 for a wedding. Number 3. It's not always blah 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 to do the right thing. Number 4. If someone is blah 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 to answer a personal question, you probably shouldn't insist. Number 5, if this course is too blah blah blah, you should find a harder one. Number 6, I would be blah 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 to represent my country in the Olympics. Number 7, it's important to speak blah 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 when you give a speech. So I will give you 8 minutes to finish these exercises starting from now. Set your alarm clock for about 10 minutes. 8 minutes. Next. Here are the answers for the subjunctive verbs exercises. Number 1, it is probably inevitable that you. Number 2, it is not appropriate to dress casually for a wedding. Number 3, it's not always easy to do the right thing. Number 4, if someone is reluctant to answer. Number 5, if this course is too easy, you should. Number 6, I would be proud to represent. Number 7, it's important to speak confidently when you. blah blah blah. And now it looks like you can fill in the words more than once on the blank of these exercises. Next, here are the subjunctive verbs. The verbs below are often followed by a noun clause. Note that the verb in each noun clause is in the simple form. Advise, insist, demand, suggest, propose, request, recommend, require. Number of these exercises, Mr. Lin in the example are suggested that John use Mr. Wu as his maiden. Number 2 of the example is John requested that Mr. Lin be one of his maiden. Now we go to the next part. A. Complete the sentences below with information from the story. More than one answer may be possible. Number 1. Taiwanese wedding customs require that a couple, blah blah blah, marries cakes to relatives and friends to announce the engagement. Number 2. At first, Mr. Lin recommended that John, blah blah blah, Mr. Wu to be his maiden. Number 3. Later, Mr. Lin suggested that Mr. O, blah blah blah, John's maiden. Number 4. Mr. Lin requested that John, blah blah blah, him a small red envelope. Number 5. John suggested that Huiling, blah blah blah, the best tea for their 6 guests. Number 6. Mrs. Chan demanded that John not blah 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 maiden. Next, I will give you 6 minutes to finish these exercises starting from now, and make sure to set your alarm clock for 6 minutes. Here are the answers for exercises on page 141, section A. Number 1. Taiwanese wedding customs require that couples send marriage cakes. Number 2. At first, Mr. Lin recommended that John ask Mr. Wu. Number 3. Later, Mr. Lin suggested that Mr. O be John's maiden. Number 4. Mr. Lin requested that John give him. Number 5. John suggested that Huiling have the best tea. Number 6. Mrs. Chan demanded that John not bring 6 maiden. Next. Here are the end of the lecture section. Don't forget to do your assignments. Number 1. Students fill in their attendance list on the e-learning Unpak 12 meeting. Number 2. Students fill in the choices option in e-learning Unpak 12 meeting. And number 3, students watch the video around the word culture and make sure we will discuss this video on the next meeting, and make sure yourself to watch the video. Thank you very much for your attention and goodbye.